Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Georgia Bulldogs continue to build the trenches in the 2024 class. A week ago, they landed Michael Uini, and now they land his commitment from four-star offensive tackle Daniel Calhoun, who, again, absolutely massive frame. 6'6 and a half, 355 pounds. We're going to get into the film, but what I'll say about him is although he has a big body, this dude is a phenomenal athlete that gets off the ball extremely well. And a lot of times when you see these big tackles coming out of high school, they kind of struggle to get out of their stance. They kind of struggle to generate some power. They're just eat you up. Daniel Calhoun has some big time power, plays with a low pad level for how big he is. This is a really big get. And we got to talk about Stacey Saros. Like, as a Michigan fan, we talked about it when Michael Uini committed. Like, Michigan has gotten a lot of hype for their offensive line. Sharon Moore has gotten a lot of hype for how he's done as a coach, and he's done a phenomenal job. But Stacey Saros, what he's doing with this Georgia offensive line, and you take a look at the history, and there's a lot of attention that goes to this Georgia defensive line, which is elite. But this offensive line, I mean, they continue to just build out absolute dominant offensive lines. Jamari Salyer going to the NFL draft, Broderick Jones and Warren McClendon, probably going to have 3 NFL draft picks after this year. I mean, Xavier Truss you could throw in there, Tate Ratledge, Cedric Van Pran, probably the best center in the country. And then you're talking about Amarius Mims, who might be a top 10 pick. Georgia continues to not only build a ton of talent on the offensive line, but the depth. And I think you're seeing guys like Amarius Mims, who did enter the portal, trust the process and say, I'm going to go to Georgia, even though I might not play for the first 2 years, but I know I'm going to get developed. And when it's time for me to actually play some football on the field, like, I'm going to be an NFL caliber offensive lineman. Shout out Georgia. They're doing a phenomenal job. Now, before we get into Daniel Calhoun and then take a look at what else Georgia has cooking in the month of July, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the Bulldog fans. You guys have been absolutely awesome. We talk a lot of recruiting, and because we talk a lot of recruiting, we're talking a lot of Georgia recruiting because they're very hot on the trail, building a dominant class in 2024. You guys have been awesome. So if you like the updates, you like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys. And let's get into Daniel Calhoun first, and then we'll talk about some other offensive linemen Georgia's trending for, and then what this 2024 class could really look like for the Bulldogs. I want to take us to the film for Daniel Calhoun, and it gets to the point of what I'm saying. There's 2 things I really like. One, he gets off the ball extremely well. He's extremely powerful, but he's also a guy that can play in space. And you look at Georgia, what they want to do with their offensive linemen. They asked their linemen to get up to the second level, to play in space. And Daniel Calhoun, for being 6'6 and a half, 355 pounds, is a phenomenal athlete when it comes to playing in space, working to the second level. You fire up the film, the first thing you're going to see is eat someone up. Gets off the line of scrimmage extremely well. Just an absolute road grader. But here you go. Look at him get out into space, stay engaged with the block, and just bury a guy. I mean, that's special stuff for a guy who is 6'6", 300 pounds. You see him rolling around again, really good in space, really good at working to the next level. He's a guy that he plays a little with a little nasty in him too, which we talked about with Michael Uini too. It's hard not to play with a little nasty at that size. But again, double team, works up to a linebacker, buries the linebacker into the dirt. So much to like about what Daniel Calhoun brings to the table here. What's even more exciting, though, I think, is you take a look at this class for Georgia. It's the number 1 class in the country. This is a 23rd commitment in the class. It looks like they might take 30 kids in this class. So you take a look at the guys Georgia's trending for, and that's kind of what you get when you win back-to-back national titles, right? You can pick up the phone and you can call any prospect, and they're going to go take a visit to Athens. And so you kind of carry a massive stick, and it's looking like they're going to take a ton of kids in this class. And looking through it, I want to focus on the trenches. We can focus on like a lot of different position groups. You obviously have the number 1 quarterback in the country in Dylan Raiola, who I love his transfer into Buford to play his final season of high school ball. But I want to talk a little bit more. Well, I do want to talk Dylan Raiola. So you're going after a lot of kids from Buford, right? KJ Bolden, Edric Houston, Dylan Raiola being quarterback 1 there. I love that. I love maybe like just getting him in there, getting him talking to some other Georgia prospects. I like that. But I want to focus on this offensive line and the trenches in general, right? The offense and defensive line. You land really 2 good, really defensive linemen, Jordan Thomas from Don Bosco Prep, and then Justin Green. And then you look at this offensive line spot, and it's wild that I have to scroll all the way that far down to get to the 9th best tackle in the class in Michael Uini, who they landed last week. Those are 2 premier tackles in this class. And if you listen to the scouts and you listen to the coaches, what they have to say about this tackle class, it's not great. Georgia looking like they're going to take Nair Daniels, who's expected to commit on July 7th. July 8th, you have Marquise Easley committing. Both guys that are trending to Athens, Georgia. One, you're getting a ton of tackles that is going to help your team. Like the depth of this offensive line is going to be disgusting. But you're also taking away really quality tackles from other SEC programs. And so, like, that's one spot that you look in the transfer portal every year. Every team is looking for a quality tackle in the transfer portal. Georgia, they don't need to because they just load up on talent in the high school level. You take 4 of these top tackles, 2 of them are going to work out, probably more than that, and you'll have a situation where Marius Mims is sitting on the bench waiting to play. But you're looking really good about this tackle class in 2024. And then you take a look at who's on campus and who we're trending for. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Baker is in the mix, right? The number 1 tackle in the class out at Mater Dei. Again, you talk about Georgia carrying that big stick. Like, they can pick up the phone and call Brandon Baker. He's going to take a look, and he concludes Georgia in his top 10. But along the trenches in general, right? Joseph Jone, who is absolute like a freak, was trending to Oklahoma. And then again, Georgia picks up the phone. They turn up the heat on him. If you're a defensive lineman, premier defensive lineman, you're going to pick up the phone when Kirby Smart calls. Joseph Jone, he's trending to Georgia, an absolute freak. That lists like 600 plus pounds. Aiden Breland, another kid from Mater Dei. If you can swing both Brandon Baker and Aiden Breland to Athens, or just one of them, like you're looking at a special class, one of the best defensive linemen in the class. I know Christopher Jones is trending to Georgia at that linebacker spot. Nair Daniels, another just massive dude, 6'8", 340 from New Jersey, also trending to Georgia. He's committing July 7th, so we'll break that down if he ends up going to Georgia. But continue to look at the defensive line. KJ Bolden, another Buford kid. Dylan Raul again this year. Him and Edric Houston. Come on now. And I'm optimistic about a wide receiver here too. Like whether it's Ryan Wingo or Mike Matthews, when you have Dylan Raul in the fold, like it gets a lot easier to recruit the wide receivers because they know they're going to have an elite arm throwing them the football. Jordan Ross is another interesting one, kind of like a Nolan Smith cut, right? A little bit leaner, probably going to play more on the edge. Really, I mean, it's between Georgia and Tennessee from what I'm hearing for that. But you look, not only does Georgia have the number 1 class in the country, they're trending for a ton of top 100 guys. Williams Emoneri is probably a guy that I want to close out on. Another dude that Oklahoma seemed to have the inside track. Georgia turns up the heat on him, and it's really hard to say no to the Georgia Bulldogs when you're a defensive lineman coming out of high school. And again, Ryan Wingo, I like their chances with him. And then I like their chances. They land Daniel Calhoun, and I like their chances with Marquise Easley, another big body, 6'5.5", 335 pounds. If you're the Georgia Bulldogs, like something special is brewing in this 2024 class. And again, if you can kind of just keep stacking these elite seasons, the recruiting is only going to pick up. These guys know that if they go to Athens, they're going to play for national titles, and they're going to be developed in the NFL draft picks. Those are the 2 boxes you got to check. Like everyone's got NIL packages. Everyone's got nice facilities. The 2 boxes that I think are hard to set yourself apart is producing NFL talent and winning national championships. And the Georgia Bulldogs have been doing a lot of that the last couple of years. Again, want to close it out on that. Appreciate you guys for rocking with us, checking out the content. If you do enjoy the content and you like talking recruiting, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.